Exactly. Good morning.
This is live now? We can't do that.
And good evening. We're now live, by the way, gents.
We've been live for 10 minutes.
Joining us this week on the 19th of June, 2017. And today we are going to be catching up on the e-commerce news of what's happened in the past week and find out potentially what affects you. Now, there is a biggie this week. This is what we've just been chatting about here in the background. In fact, it's been really enjoyable actually just listening to Dave and Richard chat about what's been going on. To give you a heads up, what we're going to be chatting about today is a small one. Amazon's going to be offering 2% reward on purchases made with debit cards. I'm looking forward to Richard explaining how important that one is. Bing Ads actually starts getting some device targeting options. Now, I'm going to give you like a pre-header on that one. Bing Ads, for me personally, for my experience with them, they have been effective, but not as effective as Google Ads. But it's about time they had some device targeting. We'll be chatting about Pricesearcher as well. Oh, one which went under the radar. That's what we've just been chatting about here in the background. Walmart buys an e-commerce retailer for how much, Richard?
$310 million.
Yeah, so pocket change, in short. And then the biggie, Amazon, and we'll be discussing this one last. I think there's a reason why someone stuck it last on the list. Yeah. Amazon is to acquire Wholefoods market grocery retailer. So a massive retailer. And there was, again, I want to give you like a little bit of a spoiler alert. Richard and Dave, and it was a bit fascinating just watching these two guys chat about this, is just literally just a few moments ago, they were chatting about Amazon being like the new kid on the block for what is a new, like a very young company. And the price differential between when Amazon started and when like Whole Foods, what were they, 213 million?
Yeah, this was something which popped up today. Is that Amazon launched July 1994, and launched with like nothing, like no value at all. At that time, Whole Foods was valued at $220 million, and that was 20 years ago. So, inflation and growth there.
And they've just bought them for 13.7 billion.
Yes. Within 20 years, Amazon have just blown right past them and have now bought them.
Okay, so we've got a number of topics which we're going to be covering live here with you today. Links to all of the articles and all the topics which we are covering with you are live on YouTube underneath the video description. You may have to press the show more button to see the links, and it will take you across to eSellerCafe and you can read each of the articles. Now, obviously, Dave and Richard have published many articles over the past week, but these are the top 5 or so which we're going to be discussing today with you because we feel they have the biggest impact to you and your business. Maybe not today, but over time they will do. So with that said, Richard, why is a 2% reward that exciting from Amazon for debit card purchases?
Well, I think it's a swipe at PayPal. And that's despite the fact that we talked about, PayPal trying to go buddy-buddy with Amazon. But by offering 2%, now let me back off a little bit. Amazon has been offering in the United States for a period of time now the ability to load your account, what they're basically your own gift card, with money either directly through a bank account or through a credit card. Now, if you do it through a credit card, you put $1 in, you get $1. In a bank account, they would run promotions. If you did $100 increments, they would give you a 5% back. And so this is the first time, and it seems like doesn't matter, no minimum requirement. But when you use your debit card, which is basically, you bank a debit card, you get automatically a 2% credit. The reason they can give you 2% is because the bank card fees are far less. The credit card like MasterCard or Visa will take.
You're right. Sorry, I just realized what's going on here. So I'm sure many of you already know this, just in case you don't. And apologies, Richard, for jumping in there. Those of you which have got payment processing gateways, you already know this. If a customer pays you using a debit card, it's normally just a transaction cost, which you get charged. Whereas if a customer pays via a credit card, I'm going to, Visa, like a true Visa card, not a Visa debit card, is that the retailer will get charged a percentage, or you as the small business owner will get charged a percentage. And this is Amazon playing with those numbers that I'm sure they've just worked out over a period of time, worked out that they save about 2%. So they're passing that on as an incentive. Is that right, gents?
Yes, that's about right. And obviously, while the money is sitting in their account, they're earning interest. Even so, they're probably not officially a bank, but I'm sure that PayPal earns interest on their money sitting around as well. So the idea here is, why not just offer 2% on debit card purchases? First of all, there's some antitrust issues possibly with that, why you can't do it. But the other thing is that you want the money to stay in the account, because when the money is in the account, just like with PayPal and eBay had that advantage for years, once the money's there, it's like, oh, I have $50 at Amazon, I have $60. Well, then if you use that $50 or $60, how often do you actually buy $50 or $60 worth of product? You don't. And that's, that's a whole game with gift cards in the first place. Is like most people overshoot the gift cards, amount.
Or don't even use them. That's the thing with gift cards. It drives me nuts when the kids.
Yeah, some people don't even use them. Yeah, you're correct. The physical ones, yes.
Yeah, the physical ones. They get given them and they're like, oh, meh. Yeah. And they just get left on the side. I wonder how many millions of dollars or pounds just get wasted every year.
I have heard that as much as 20% of gift card numbers. And I like I said, this I've heard this some years back. 20% of gift cards never get used.
That wouldn't surprise me. I just know how many are just loitering around the house. It's going to be a fair few.
Because when you go to some of these gift card sites that offer you, you can buy discounted gift cards, and I regularly buy discounted gift cards for restaurants around here. I buy them at 14-15% off asking value, because they're buying them from people obviously at 30% off the face value. So they're making them sure 10 points or 10 or 15 points on it. So people are willing to give up these gift cards because they don't use them. So. But anyways, that gets us to a whole different topic.
Yeah, and by the way, there's one thing for you to take away from that is, if you have the ability to do gift cards,
do it.
Do it.
Just saying in the chat, then Vanessa said 90% don't even use gift cards at all. Yeah. And I was like, yeah, absolutely. If you can actually sell gift cards, it's a no-brainer. It's almost money for nothing in some instances.
Yeah, in some instances. No, but back to the whole deal why Amazon is just, I think there is a PayPal pressure play here, because Amazon has their own payment gateway system. I think they want to build up that. Obviously, whatever discussions they've had with PayPal haven't gone very far. We keep saying, oh, there's small incremental steps, but there's obviously some form of reasoning on both sides why this is not yet implemented. So maybe this is Amazon saying, you know what? We'll just hedge our bets for the time being and start collecting funds in our accounts, and do it that way. So that's what I see in that. It's not so much a 2% savings; it's more, I think, collecting the cash and having it in people's accounts, sitting around collecting interest for Amazon.
All right, moving on. Bing Ads expand device targeting options. Richard, tell us more.
Well, basically they incrementally. Doing what Google has been doing with AdWords, which is being able to, target desktop computers, smartphones, and tablets. And the interchange import-export function that they have implemented is, from what I understand, I don't use either one of them, but from what I understand, you can just export it out of Google and import the data into Bing, so you can go back and forth. Clearly, Bing is trying to stay relevant here. I don't know if Bing has any niches where it's better at than Google. They obviously post on their website, oh, this and this retailer had great success with Bing. Okay, everybody can post something. I just don't hear people using Bing that much. But I don't know if you guys have any experience with people using Bing and what kind of impact it has. But at least they're trying, So
yeah, again, hands up. It's not as big as Google AdWords by any stretch of the imagination, but it's if you're running targeted ads, then you really should be considering Bing at the same time. So if you're having decent success with Google ads, then yeah, you should be looking at Bing as well. It won't be as prolific, that's for sure, just by the attention and the number of eyeballs which are using Bing services in one shape or another, but it shouldn't be sniffed at. We should never dismiss them, because if it drives a conversion and it's like for like price,
why not? Yeah. And if they are making it easier to transfer data between the two services, which apparently this step does, you know, that's just good for advertisers.
Absolutely. So your takeaway for that one, if you're doing Google Ads, then and you're seeing success, then look at Bing. Seriously, look at Bing, because maybe when your competitors, they're just getting hooked up in Google ads of any shape or form, PLAs, etc., etc. Don't overlook Bing at all. In fact, one action for you to take away from today is to go and have a look at Bing ads and see what you can be doing with that one. The reason being is because I even use them myself for one of my businesses, and it works okay. It's different, but it's not the same kind of level of results, but it still drives results, which is the main takeaway, which I'm sure you want to hear.
I think for me, Matt, I'm just going slightly off topic on that one. I always used to say, if ever you're having a bad day, always remember that the head of search at Bing has to go into work every day knowing that the most searched term on Bing is Google.
That's true.
It always cheers me up.
Yeah,
Well, Dave, that is true. Now, Dave, the next part of today's live session is about Pricesearcher. They've labeled themselves as the e-commerce search engine.
Yeah.
Relevant to us, Dave? Should we be interested? What's the deal with them? And it's the Pricesearcher, it's called.
Yeah, Pricesearcher. And again, all the links to everything that we're talking about can be found in the description down below. But yeah, Pricesearcher seems to have come out of relative obscurity and are sort of putting themselves forward as the e-commerce search engine. And what Pricesearcher seems to have done is collate basically 350 million products into its indexes. And I think last numbers that I got from those guys are getting about 1 million hits a month. So not unreasonable amounts of traffic by any stretch of the imagination. And yeah, it basically people can type into Pricesearcher a specific product they're looking for, and if you are indexed by Pricesearcher, you will show up in the results for that product. So it basically lists them by sort of price, and if you can check out with PayPal or anything else. Is it a marketplace? Is it a site? Blah, blah, blah. And it just seems like quite, like I said, relatively new. They're taking on lots of investment, so it's 100% free. And their tagline is free now, free forever. So there's totally free to integrate with, totally free to use. They're just trying to revolutionize e-commerce search, and integrates with all the big players: Magento, Woo, Shopify, and literally, and you can also do XML or CSV imports as well if you're not doing feeds as well if you're not using one of the big providers. So yeah, it seems almost like a bit of a no-brainer. I don't see you've got nothing to lose and only something to gain. You know, it could generate more sales, put your business in front of people who may not have found you previously. So Pricesearcher, yeah. And this is something which we're doing a little bit more with eSellerCafe right now, doing a little bit more, bringing solution providers or tools that you previously may not have known about, and showing you them and going, hey, if you check this out, this is pretty interesting. So this is the first one with Pricesearcher. We've got a couple more coming this week. But yeah, Pricesearcher.
What do you think? I mean, I always find it interesting when somebody says free now and free forever. I put that under what I call voodoo economics. At some point in time,
well, what Pricesearcher have said is like they will potentially in the future look at rolling out the equivalent of Google ads and having people pay to have their ads go to the top, sponsored ads, whatever they may call it. But in general, for using Pricesearcher and submitting your information, just like Google, it's free to do.
Okay, that would make sense. You know, I always find interesting these. You know, obviously they're going after Google Shopping and others. Well, Bing has also shopping. So I always thought, you know, I know Bing tried it, but it's not worked there, and I think it needs to be more of a dedicated service. I always thought it would be a great idea to somehow bring that together with some kind of rebate program or something. For example, if you buy something through a service like that, the customer receives a 0.5% credit toward, future purchases on the same platform. Therefore, you keep growing the platform.
Yeah. We've had a few sort of cashback sites here in the UK, and I don't think they ever really took off.
And I'm not trying to. Yeah, I understand the cashback sites. I know that, but that to me, I mean, I actually use one because of travel a bit, and so it works for me because it's free money. I mean, I have to make a booking for a hotel or a car rental or whatever anyway, so might as well get something in return for it. But the cashback sites are always problematic because you have to go and find the one, and then it's like 3% only on the. It's always sort of mumbo jumbo, and I would think that if like something like a service would incorporate it as a one standard, they take, let's say they take a 1% of your sales for marketing purposes, but now they get the ability to also to remarket through that. I don't know. That would seem to me in the long term would be a good business model. And I know Bing tried to do that with awards or whatever they call it, and you get these points, but what do these points mean? It's like, then you look at the point redemption thing and you need like 1,500,000 points to get to get some $10 item. It's like, well, I don't do that many Bing searches, so I don't know. I just thought, I know you and I talked about another one we just found out about. So, obviously it's an area that people are seeing growth in, and maybe that's good because that means there's going to be more competition toward Google, and we don't all just live by Google.
Yeah, that's the key. So one to watch, the main takeaway for you is it's free. There's a link to them and more details in the video description underneath this video. Right, next topic, and we've got this one and one more to cover in live review today. And Richard, this was one which just went completely unnoticed, completely overshadowed by Amazon's play, which we're going to be discussing in a moment. But Walmart buys e-commerce retailer Bonobos. Who are they? What do they do? And how much do they pay for it?
Well, let's see. It was a transaction worth $310 million in cash, which is the second largest e-commerce transaction that Walmart did after Jet.com. It is 6 times a larger transaction than the last one they purchased, which was ModCloth. And it had basically no play on Friday because everybody and their brother talked about Amazon buying Wholefoods. So they should have maybe waited till Monday to release that, but obviously, you put something in motion, you're stuck with what you got. Who's Bonobos? I think the word was fashion forward, another trend word that was created.
So we're us three then. We're their type.
I know for sure you with you.
Rocking the
I don't think the three of us fit into the fashion forward at the moment, at least the way we're dressed. Now, what Bonobos is a menswear. It's basically they started out as an e-commerce play only. They did their own clothing line. It was kind of I'm not sure if upscale is completely the right word, but it's a higher end, because it's not, on the super high end, but it's obviously a medium to high end upscale, or medium high end branding. They offered, just unique clothing for men, just maybe a little different styling, being more modern, especially trying to attract the millennial up to 35 crowd. So that does fit you there, Dave. So
I'll check them out.
Yeah, check them out. You need to come to the United States to do that. They also added a wedding section to their website recently. So it's basically another hip e-commerce site, and ModCloth was somewhat similar to them, but on the women's side of it. And they bought these other ones that were niche but kind of unique places, all areas that Walmart has zero market share in when it comes to Walmart. I mean, no one in Walmart goes to Walmart store goes, oh, let me find the latest fashion trends, because it's the same boring t-shirts like I'm wearing right now. They've carried them for 30 years. They're going to carry them for the next 30 years. It's Walmart is not known as a fashion outlet. It's sort of like, okay, when you need basics, underwear, socks, and whatever, a couple new shirts. That's where you go buy the stuff because it's cheap.
Sounds like throwaway fashion, wasn't it?
Yeah, throwaway fashion, almost like, and then obviously Walmart has a tremendous following or presence, not following, a presence in the rural areas that tend to be more conservative over the urban areas. So Bonobos is a urban market. It's the major markets. They have 37 what they call guide shops, and that might make this a unique purchase for Walmart, because unlike the other e-commerce retailers they purchased, this place actually has physical locations. And they all in one.
I feel that was perhaps one of the major factors in the purchase decision, because they actually had physical presence.
That's what I'm thinking, because it seemed like a lot of money to pay for just another e-commerce play. But since they purchased these other groups, ModCloth and Moose Jaw, why would you not then take this type of group, this unique fashion forward, whatever, or specialty fashions, and have them somehow come through these stores? Now, the guide shops are not real retail stores. You basically walk in and say, look, I'm looking for fashion. This is what I'm looking for, blah, blah, blah. You can try on some things, so you can see what other stuff, they give you some suggestions, and then the stuff does still get sent to you, or you can pick it up there. So it's not like a Macy's or Nordstrom where you walk in. These are small locations, But still, there's 37 of them. They are all in markets like, higher end markets like New York, Austin, San Francisco, Los Angeles, et cetera, et cetera. So it's completely different market segmentation for Walmart. So if you take the other group of stuff that they bought, the other e-commerce, it would make sense to almost funnel them through that kind of operation, because I guarantee you no one in that market, none of that customer base is going to walk into a Walmart and go, I want fashion advice. It's just not going to happen. So I think the retail locations and how that whole interacts with an e-commerce situation, I think might have been the more attractive point here, because also in their press release, they state they're going to keep on existing management. And so it seems like they bought talent and innovation more than they bought an actual, dollars and cents, so to speak. They could have easily copied that type of concept just to sell, and so that does ask the question, will there be some form of another .com that Walmart will start? Because I can't see that going under the Walmart.com name. I also can't see that going under the Jet.com name, because Jet has no name, and Jet's name is mostly in, people have used Jet. It's kind of like the Amazon equivalent of, oh, this is where I get my laundry soap and where I get sort of my everyday products, So lots of question marks here. $310 million for Walmart is nothing, for all practical purposes. It's barely a line item on their P&L. So we'll see if this is the final buy, or if they're going to look at buying some more stuff like this. It's definitely interesting that Walmart bought an e-commerce retailer with brick and mortar presence.
Very curious. Right, let's move on quickly to the last topic which we're going to be covering today, which is Amazon kind of bought Whole Foods.
Yeah. And Whole Foods is...
Richard, just before we go into that, can you, for those of you which might not be in the United States, what is Whole Foods? What is Whole Foods basically, and also why would Amazon be interested in them? And then we'll let Dave jump in with a little bit of history there as well to them too.
Right. Well, Whole Foods is basically started out as a healthy, organic type of grocer. They, higher end foods, especially on the produce side of it, and they're oddly enough based out of Austin, which is sort of the second Silicon Valley in the United States. And they've grown through the last few years, mostly on their own, a few small acquisitions here and there. I think the UK was an acquisition of a place called Wild, and what was it called? Wild, Fresh and Wild stores. But there's a couple small acquisitions here in the United States, but they're now 450 some odd stores, of which 95% are in the U.S. They're represented in 43 states. Now, Whole Foods doesn't really compete against the normal grocery store. It's not per se this, if you walk into Whole Foods, you see a lot of specialty goods. You see bulk goods, for example, for beans and nuts and things like that. You see better meats, better fish. You see more organic products, So, and then they also have a significant section of vitamins and health supplement products. They also have the store that's right near me here is I think like 1/8 of the store is dedicated to a coffee shop, a bakery, a deli with sandwiches, and in a cheese section. So it's not just a typical grocery store. It is kind of a little bit more than that, and that's what makes it a little bit intriguing, because why would Amazon buy that?
Exactly, Richard. I'm going to pull button right there and move to Dave. Dave, can you just explain what we were chatting about at the very beginning, which was, what's the history behind this? Because you mentioned when Amazon first started, they were worth, what was it, 220 million?
This is sort of like, for anyone who doesn't understand the importance or the significance of what Amazon have actually managed to achieve here, is that Amazon was founded in July 1994. That's when it launched with nothing. And at that time when it launched, Whole Foods was valued at $220 million. That's 220 million back in 1994. And just 22 years later, Amazon have now bought them for $13.7 billion. So it's this new world of business, the new era of Amazon, the likes of Apple, Facebook, Google, now taking over and buying and acquiring the old school, the Whole Foods. It's a very exciting time for new business, but it's just further Amazon domination. And what is interesting, I only thought there was 2 Whole Foods here in the UK. I've been to one of them in London, but apparently there's now 9 scattered around the south of England.
There's 12 of them.
There's 12 in the UK. All right.
At least according to the website.
They
already expanded.
I know, yeah, Jesus, yeah. There's Amazon's growth for you, yeah, 3 a day. But what always got Richard just hit the nail on the head, because, like I said, I lived out in Hollywood, in LA, for a few months, and there's no Walmart in Hollywood, LA. There's no Publix. There's nothing. You're stuck with Trader Joe's or Whole Foods, and I found it was cheaper to eat out every day than to actually buy your food from Whole Foods or Trader Joe's. I'm like doing a weekly shop. It was cheap. You could eat out at nice places every day. It's definitely aimed at the sort of vegan, organic, health conscious market. So it's definitely not for everyone.
Particularly niche then. So Richard, you were mentioning like the actual store experience. They've got the cafe in the corner, the deli, and it's more than just a Walmart, for example. And then Dave, you're saying that the price point is a little bit steep, and it's definitely aimed at a different market to general joke public.
Yeah.
So open question for the both of you: why did Amazon buy it?
Well, I believe Amazon bought it is because when you look at the grocery business in the United States, it is somewhat fragmented. There really isn't a national grocer, with the exception of Walmart. And as much as what Dave says is correct, that in some areas Walmarts are not as much represented. They are available in California. Actually, when I lived there was one down the street from me.
I did drive past a few, whilst I was in California. But just from where I live, there was none.
Yeah. And so let me throw out a couple of statistics that I dug up, and which might be kind of interesting and part of this. Walmart represents 17.3% of all of the grocery business in the United States. Sam's Club, which is their warehouse operation that they own, is 3.4% of all the grocery business. So in totality, the Walmart company has about 21% of the grocery business in the U.S. Next behind them is Kroger, which you might have in California seen as Ralph's, because
I was gonna say I've never heard of Kroger, but I know Ralph's.
Yeah, so Ralph's is a Southern California version of Kroger. Kroger owns them, and that's what often happens is some of these companies do own others under different names. So Kroger is 8.9%, so that's the largest grocery only. Quite a bit of a steep step down from the Walmart side. And then Albertsons, which purchased Safeway, which is also was kind of a West Coast brand, is now 5.6%. Now, Albertsons is an interesting conversation because Albertsons is owned by a private investment firm, and they purchased Safeway, obviously, to try to build up a portfolio of grocery stores. And they have been openly rumored as being interested in Whole Foods. And if you look today at the Whole Foods stock price, it is trading above the asking price, or the purchase price from Amazon. And there is a slight belief out there among some investors that Albertsons may do a bid for Whole Foods, which means Amazon would have to raise the bid to buy Whole Foods. The only thing that speaks against that, in my opinion, is typically these type of private investment firms don't get into bidding wars. They like to buy things that are on the downside, okay? And so, Whole Foods was trading at somewhere around $35 prior to the announcement on Friday. So there's an $8, profit already for investors there that they took. I just don't see why they would be interested. Anyways, to move on a little bit. So you look at all these grocery stores in the United States, there isn't really a national one. The Krogers have certain markets here in Florida, for example, they don't own anything. And then Albertsons, there's some Albertsons here and a few Safeways that have popped up now. Costco, which is another one of these Sam's Club type of warehouses, they're actually number 4 on the list at 5.1%. And they would have been, to me, the more interesting buy for Amazon, because at least it's a warehouse operation you're purchasing, except Costco's involved in so many other things. I think it would have diluted what Amazon is trying to do. Mm-hmm. So this is what brings us back to Whole Foods. Whole Foods, at the end of the day, has a distribution network in place in 43 states. It has a distribution network in place in cities that are more affluent, that are more up to buying, where people are interested in purchasing better products at higher prices. And it has stopped growing. And that made it an interesting buy, because at one time they were looking for 1,200 stores. And they throttled that back early in the year. And they actually announced the closing of some stores. So it became an interesting time to buy Whole Foods, because you gain this distribution network, you gain these stores in affluent markets, and you might, in the existing distribution network by Amazon really isn't designed to handle fresh foods. Now, I'm not expecting to see a line of trucks in front of all the Whole Foods doing local deliveries. I think that won't happen. But what we might see is an expansion of the distribution network, because you can take from the Whole Foods regional distributions. And I was reading somewhere a typical Whole Foods distribution warehouse covers about 25 stores or so, that you can go from those stores and then do the deliveries. Now, let's take a look at Whole Foods right now has, and I'm looking here, is kind of down on the list, of 1.7% of the grocery market. Amazon already owns 0.8, which is surprising because they're not really in the business, but they own 0.8 through the Prime Pantry business, probably, which is where you have all the.
Yeah, did they have Amazon Fresh as well?
Amazon
Fresh.
But
there's like 3 stores,
That's some expansion last week as well. They've got their own bakery here in the UK now, and expanding that quite heavily.
Yeah, but I think but still in the totality of things, it's nothing. It's pennies to them. So I think that by buying, they're basically buying 1.7% market share. They're going to now get to closer to 2.5% by combining the two. I could see them using Whole Foods distribution to do all the fresh distribution and do all the other stuff, the canned and the pantry things, still through the regular warehouses. I also can see them, Whole Foods owns a brand called 365, which is actually, people like. So I can see them putting that on the e-commerce website, where I'm going to be really interested in seeing is Whole Foods stores have quite a big section of, sort of vitamins and nutritional supplements, right? Well, you go to a Whole Foods, you pay retail price. There's nothing in that section that's ever really discounted. You go on Amazon, you find the exact same things for 30 to 40% off. How are you going to marry these two concepts? Okay, that's going to be one. And I think it's a significant business for Whole Foods, because else they wouldn't put as much retail space toward it. The other thing that's going to be interesting to see is how are they going to manage these two really distinctive cultures of business climate. A Whole Foods is a service-oriented business. It's there's lots of people there. They bake locally. They do a lot of things in each of the local stores. The people get paid very good wages, above average wages for grocery stores. And then you have Amazon, who pretty much tries to get away with as much automation as they can, and also they're not really known as the best payers in the world. So that's going to be an interesting aspect, how these two things will go together. The bottom line is, if Amazon buys Whole Foods and things don't work out, they can sell them and somebody will buy them, and they're not going to lose really anything on the deal. But I think it was a good opportunity for them to buy it, because of the fact that Whole Foods kind of stagnated out. It kind of hit a plateau, and it is in the right markets. And let's face it, if you look on Amazon and you do buy some grocery items right now, they're not always going to be on the deal that Walmart has, because they do need to ship them. They do need to deliver them. So with Whole Foods, they're not getting into the down and dirty price game.
They've gone up a level.
Yeah, an up a level. And maybe that's, let's face it also, how many of these grocery delivery concepts have we seen come and go? I mean, they've been around for 15, 20 years. People have tried this. I know Publix is on their third one here. Publix is a regional, Southeast regional grocery chain. It actually owns, is actually number 5 on the total list, of size in the United States. And they're now, again, trying for a third time to do a delivery. And I think one of the problems with grocery delivery in general is that people do like to see their produce. They do like to, and maybe they feel if you go to Whole Foods around that there, because you can get more for that onion and that cantaloupe, maybe they can, weed out more of the bad things, and they don't have to, they can do more hand-picked stuff, and the stuff that does get delivered is of a higher quality, and therefore people will be more, okay, I will pay more for my bananas, but I know I'll get good quality bananas. I don't know. There's still lots of questions about this.
There's a lot of questions. I think what's interesting for me.
For a second, I was just going to quickly add that if you go to a Tesco or a Walmart, which we know is Asda here in the United Kingdom, you go in there in the evening, the amount of people doing the picks for deliveries is just unreal, and their vans are going all over the shop here in the United Kingdom. So it's prevalent here in the UK. I only ever see getting the actual delivery side getting bigger. I'm really surprised it's not taken off more over with you, Richard, in the United States. Sorry, Dave. Carry.
I was just going to say, I do agree with Richard. I living in the centre of Manchester, it's not always the easiest thing to go and do a full shop. Again, if you don't have a car, it can be troublesome. So we did used to do the whole get it delivered to you, and totally had the same experience what Richard's talking about. We were getting stuff that was like 1 day away from out of date, stuff that looked terrible. You didn't really want to eat it. Whereas when you go into Tesco, you can actually hand pick your apples or your bananas or whatever else, and you do see the ones that have got bruises on them and everything else, so you avoid them. Whereas the same person who's delivering it doesn't have the same motivation to do that. What I would say with my experience with Whole Foods is every single thing in that store is immaculate. Mm-hmm. Every single product, every carrot, every apple, banana, whatever it is immaculate. And you walk in there, it's an experience. And that is the thing which bricks and mortar needs to do in order to compete with online. That's something which Whole Foods, in my experience, did fantastically well. Going to Whole Foods was an experience because you know, the way they light the store, the way they make it look like a bit like a farmer's market with some of the stalls set out and the carts with the fruit and veg on. It feels like a premium service and a premium product that you're buying. The interesting thing for me is, as we've seen countless times throughout, the past 10 years, Amazon are totally not afraid of making a short-term loss to make a long-term gain. It wouldn't surprise me if they were offering, if they slashed Whole Foods prices for delivery, or whether they did click and collect, where you can buy your shirt, come check it in store, take it away. And do it. And if they reduce some of that to Walmart prices, take that initial loss, win a big market gain, and then slowly increase prices back, that is what I think Amazon would do, because we've seen it a long time. They're not scared of making losses, and then they just flip it, and boom, profit appears.
Yeah, and I think you've picked up on actually on a really important point there, which maybe we've only just been in discovered, which is the level of customer service and the actual products themselves. Amazon may have felt to them as a company that obviously there's some issues there with stores and things like that, and there's potential delivery, but the actual ethos of the company itself, the way it presents itself to the customers, is kind of more in line with what they would feel as appropriate. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think so, and I think the click and collect part, using that term, it's definitely one of the things that I could see work well with Amazon and the Whole Foods combination. One thing I do want to point out when it comes to delivery here in the United States, which might be different from Europe, is that Walmarts don't close. A lot of grocery stores open from 7 in the morning to midnight. The ability to purchase what you need is 24/7. I think that's not as prevalent in Europe as it is here. Every grocery store here has a parking lot of the size of a soccer
small
field.
Village here in the UK.
Small village, yeah. So the some of the things that would probably I can see in Europe where I got to go to the grocery store. Okay, now I got to go on the subway, do this, and then I got to carry 10 bags home. You're not likely, if you can get that delivered, you say, yeah, let me do that. It's a lot simpler. Here, you get in the car, you drive over, you're there in 5 minutes, and you get pissed off when your parking spot is more than 5 spots away from the front door. So there is a different buying pattern here. But having said that, at least with Whole Foods, you do go after a different market, and I think that if I do agree that Amazon might be looking at doing some bringing down some prices in order to kind of stick a little bit to Walmart in some areas, but they need to be careful not to destroy the Whole Foods name, because if produce delivery or whatever, or if a grocery delivery still doesn't work for whatever reason, it needs to maintain a name so that there's a value there if they want to, because clearly other people are interested in that segment, And there are other players in the segment in the United States. There's another place here called Fresh Market near me, that mostly southeastern United, similar to Whole Foods. There's one on the West Coast that I can't think of the name at the moment. That's actually larger. It's got like 200 some odd stores, I think, that is being considered by buyout from one of the main grocers. So these organic high-end grocers are being sought after by the other grocery stores, and Publix, quite frankly, is here is opening up stores specifically against Whole Foods that are different from their regular stores. They're trying to go more after that organic market, not just in their own grocery store, but also as a separated store. So the whole business is growing.
There's quite a bit of competition going on.
Yeah, and that's why I also don't think we're going to see regulator issues here, because let's face it, in the totality of things, we're talking 2.7% of the market share.
Mm-hmm.
So regulators, there's plenty of competition. Other grocery stores are going after the same market. I know when Whole Foods bought Wild Oats, I think it was called, some years back, there was some antitrust issues brought up. But I think all of that is not going to be a player. So it's an interesting buy. That everything is speculation. The fact that they said nothing about what they're going to do with it is kind of probably why everybody's speculating, because they just put it out there. Hey, we spent $13.7 billion. Oh, by the way, we bought all the debts too. So took them over.
The thing with Amazon, though, they always have a plan. They don't rush into these things. They know exactly what they're doing. They've just not told us yet.
Maybe it'll be the first grocery store on Mars. I don't know. You know?
Him and Elon are planning first Whole Foods on Mars.
I feel it's time for us to wrap up. So on that note, the topics which we covered here today, Amazon starting to offer 2% reward for purchases made with debit cards. We discussed maybe a little some of the background behind that. Bing ads, takeaway for you. If you've not looked at Bing ads, go and take a look at Bing ads, because if you're having some success with Google-based services, chances are it won't be as big with Bing, but more likely your competitors have been and overlooked it. Pricesearcher as well. If you're using Magento, WooCommerce, or Shopify right now, by the looks of it, they got direct integrations, and there could be a straightforward no-brainer to get some free targeted traffic across to your sites. The one which went underneath the radar, which Walmart took, what was it? Their biggest purchase, second biggest purchase?
Second biggest purchase.
Second biggest purchase. Completely railroaded by Amazon, taking on Whole Foods. And we've had that big discussion about Whole Foods. I hope, and again, if those of you which are not based in the United States, I actually find the store experience very, very curious. For myself here based in the United Kingdom, I feel like it's going to be really curious to see what Amazon do with Whole Foods over the short term and also the long term as well. It's a very curious one to see what happens for their long-term vision, to see what actually happens with
next time you're in London, Matt, head to Soho and go to Whole Foods, and you'll see what I mean with the experience. It's always busy as well.
Maybe I should put myself. Should I put like a little GoPro camera on my head and walk into Whole Foods and buy things?
The POV experience.
Brilliant. So with that said, links to all of the articles which we've been to discuss today are on the video underneath on YouTube underneath this video. And of course, links to all of them are on eSellerCafe.com. And I would like to say a massive thank you for myself, Matt, and of course, Dave and Richard, for you joining us here today. So Dave and Richard, thank you ever so much. I found that very, very interesting.
Pleasure as always, sir. Pleasure as always. Don't forget to hit that like button.
Oh, yeah. You know what I mean?
Wherever that is, right?
So on that note, from us, gents, have a fantastic day. Cheerios.
Bye.
Catch you next week.